Okay, I think we're going to get started. I think more people will be joining us, but I want to welcome everyone to Career Conversations, taking your mentorship to the next level. My name is Michelle Cavalcanti, and I work in alumni relations, identifying and developing professional development resources for alumni in the greater University of Rochester community. Before we begin, I wanted to point out that there is closed caption either at the top or the bottom in your navigation bar. And if you could all keep your microphones muted during the presentation, we would appreciate it. Also, this is being recorded and we will be sharing out the video with you after the event. So what will be covering today, we are going to be covering a number of topics. Some of you have been participating in our mentorship program, our first university-wide mentorship program on our platform, the Meliora Collective, and we are very grateful for that. Others may be in mentorship relationships outside the formal program, either on the Meliora Collective platform or even off the platform in your workplace. And still, we might have people on this call or meeting rather that are interested in being a volunteer. And so, and will want to be a mentor in future presentations. So the presenters this evening are going to be providing useful information on what mentorship is, the role of the mentor and the mentee, successful mentorship relationships, communication and technology, an equitable approach to mentoring, and then also closing the relationship. How do you do that? Or maybe you don't, maybe it continues. If you have a question, we'd like you to use the chat box tonight, and you can use the down arrow, find my name, Michelle Cavalcanti, and send me a message that says, I have a question, or you can just type the question yourself in the chat box through a private message. And then during the Q&A session, I'll call on you to pose your question to our experts, excuse me. Which brings me to our experts. I'd like to now introduce our speakers tonight. I will call on them one by one and then have you hear a little bit about themselves from them. So I'm going to ask Sean to start us out. Sean?
Excellent. So good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you're calling in from. My name is Sean Allen. I was born in Colorado, grew up on the Jersey Shore. I'm a civil engineer by degree, attended University of Rochester, class of 2011, Simon School. And I'm happy to be a presenter today. I am a project manager / engineer, as well as a certified professional career coach and resume writer. So I'm looking forward to talking about additional skills and tools that you can add to your mentorship toolbox. So looking forward to today's conversation, and I guess I'll pass it on to Sue to introduce herself as well.
Thanks, Sean. I have to say I'm in the DC area, but the U of R was a great experience for me. It made my childhood dream come alive. I became a nurse there, did a lot of nursing, and then ended up going from direct nursing into public health. All along my career, I started realizing I was doing more and more mentoring. So for the last 11 years, I've been formally mentoring now. Thank you, Jonathan.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Jonathan Mahar Sayez. I am a 2013 U of R grad. I'm originally from Syracuse, New York, and actually now I'm living back here in Rochester, New York. So very excited. I'm a career coach for those in the social sector, so looking to make a difference, but work many other hats, including as a professional fundraiser, leadership development trainer, and many things else as well. So excited to be here and excited to be presenting with Sue and Sean tonight.
All right, so we're just going to get started. Here we go.
Awesome. So I'll kick it off, and we just wanted to each share just a brief kind of saying of what is mentorship to us as well. For me, I always see it as an informal, relationship-oriented focus on how you navigate professional and personal life. It's more relationship focused, but focused on helping each other and helping each other grow as you kind of navigate things.
Yeah, and I'll take the next one. Yeah, so mentorship, I like this sign because it's a two-way street, right? And we'll talk about you get out of it what you put into it from a mentee and a mentorship side. But the idea of mentorship is, relationship, or it could be coach, it could be like a team aspect. So with mentorship, it's a relationship that's a two-way, and you kind of find that balance point. Some of you have been mentoring for 10, 15, 20 years, some for 10, 15, 20 minutes. But today we'll talk about what does that relationship look like, and what are some tools we can talk about, and how do you define your actual role? So to me, that's what mentorship is, a relationship. We just have to define what type of mentor you will be. Sue?
Great. Well, I get the benefit of going last when everybody's already said brilliant things. I'll add that my perspective also brings in that it's an objective guiding of a mentee to get to a goal. For me, it's often a career path step that they make progress on. But as you'll hear, there are a lot of ways that mentoring happens around a variety of different goals. Next slide.
So we're going to kick it off with a poll question that's going to be launched shortly. But we'd love to learn more about who you are, like what hat are you bringing today as well. So you'll see the question here. So the options are, I'm currently mentoring someone, I've mentored someone in the past, I'm interested in mentoring, I want to learn more about mentorship, or I'm a mentor and mentee. And some of us may be multiple ones, but feel free to pick that option that works best for you, and we'll close the poll in just a few seconds here. Just quickly feel free to choose something, and we'll kind of review who's in the room today. Awesome. And it looks like the majority of folks here are currently mentoring someone. So great to see so many folks here that are currently mentors as well. I definitely love to see people who are interested in learning more and interested in possibly volunteering as well. So thanks for joining us today.
All right. So this is going to be interactive today. So if you are ready to hop in and do some polls, we're going to do several polls. We also want to, again, recommend you use that chat box. So if you have questions, if you like something, feel free to use that chat box, and we can roll your questions in towards the end at the Q&A. But for now, what is the role of the mentor? So here's your opportunity. Hop in that chat box and let us know. What do you think is the role of a mentor? Just put out 1 or 2 words, and we'll see what pops into the chat here. What is the role of a mentor? Okay, Jeremy says sounding board. I like that. Steve says listening and sharing. Elise says listen. Okay. What else? What is the role of a mentor? We'll take a couple more here. A guide, generating ideas. Excellent. Excellent. Let's get a couple more going here. I think we have, how many people on the call? We have 35 and growing. All right, what else we have in the chat here? Oh, this is a good one. Not directing. By non-judgmental questioning, I clarify mentees' thoughts. I like this. Using experience to share. This is wonderful. Excellent. So you see a good trend here, right? You see listen pop up. You see guide. You see ideas, sharing, sounding board. So this all resonates with the same theme of a mentor. Not a dictator, not telling your mentee what to do, right? So we're going to talk about some more intermediate advanced approaches. But all these are hitting right up spot on. Look at what Jessica says: support, clarity, help research your own conclusions. So we'll define that a little bit more on this next slide. We're going to pass it on to Sue to walk us through, kind of from our top down, what are the different roles of definitions of what a mentor is.
And then you'll each help me contribute to this too. Here are some characteristics you'll see on the screen. And I'm pleased to have the poll results and know that many of you have experience in this. For me, I definitely look at mentoring. A good characteristic is interest and willingness. And you all wouldn't be here if you weren't vitally interested to attend at whatever hour it is where you're living. But it's important also to talk about what it's not. And for those who are thinking about mentoring or new to mentoring, please be assured that mentees don't have to have all the answers. That's why we have program guides, we have each other. There are a lot of ways you can get resources to help you out. Also, mentees don't have to get someone a job or share everybody in their network with the mentee unless they choose it. So you don't have to provide everything that a mentee may be asking for. You use your best judgment. And from all the answers you gave to Sean's chat box exercise, I know you're on the right path. So Jonathan, then Sean, any additions, please?
Okay, I love your list too, and the only thing I'll add is, like, you know, a mentor sometimes is not that strict advisor to just be of the only right possible way. You know, like, you're not advising, you know, a CEO or a president. Like, you're just guiding them through everything, listening to how it is, and providing suggestions too. And to reiterate what Sean said too, it's a two-way street. So, like, you're learning from the mentee as well, and how you can, you know, advance some of your goals and figure out how to work together.
Yeah, exactly. And I like, you know, leading by example. I did notice in the poll results, did you notice that there was only 2 people who selected that they were a mentor and a mentee? And I know I was one of them, although it was an anonymous poll, I was one of them, right? So I would encourage you that if you're really interested in mentorship, I like that third option there, encourages exploration. We encourage you to explore a little bit and also find a mentor. You may already have a mentor and not realize that you have a mentor-mentee relationship where you're the mentee. Having that relationship can help you connect a little bit more with your mentees, because you may be facing the same issues with your mentor as your mentee may be with you. And so I'll end on that, but I really like to encourage exploration. Explore getting a mentor on your own or seeing the mentors that you do have, and then try to add some of those challenges and solutions from your relationship with your mentor, bring that to your mentor-mentee relationship.
Awesome. So we've talked about this a little bit, but you can wear many different types of hats as a mentor as well. And these are just 5 specific hats that I like to think about, that you can be interchangeable, or you can only be one specific with your mentee. So, you know, the first one is a coach, like, and this is where you're just guiding them through problems. You're brainstorming with them, you're suggesting some ideas, but you're helping them think through how they can accomplish their goals and build on that. Another hat is the star. So, like, you are your own star in your professional life. So you should share your experiences and how you navigated things and what challenges you overcame and accomplished. So I kind of think about how you can share your own experiences for them to learn to navigate their own path as well. Another hat is the librarian. So this is like all the resources, the free online tools, the podcasts, you know, all the things that you can think about that you're listening to grow yourself. Feel free to share them as well, and kind of think about how to share some resources with them. And then another hat is the connector. So introducing your network is a great tool, you know, but do it in a strategic way that works for you. Like, figure out what the mentee's goals are and connect them to people that make sense based on similar interests, and build on that as well. And then lastly, sometimes forgetting one is the teammate. Sometimes the mentee just needs support. They just need you to say, I'm here for you. I'm in your corner. I'm going to cheer you on through this problem. So providing that support could just be just as crucial as some of the other hats as well. So, and you can think of changing these up during each meeting that you're having, or different types of way, but lots of different types of hats you can wear to support your mentee through the relationship.
Now we're going to look at successful mentorship. And again, most of you are very well versed in all of these. About a couple points to understand. There's nuances about asking questions and listening, and then the opposite being the discouraged providing solutions. And what often happens is, while you're exploring, sometimes the mentees need help. So rather than directing them, giving them examples, this has been referred to by the others already on the panel, but also I find that mentees like to know that other mentees I've worked with have actually dealt with some of the same problems. And that really seems to resonate. I get people now asking me more and more if I give them one advice, like, oh, have you seen someone else go through this? Also, we talked in a characteristic about being the reflection back to them of their own self-reflection. And that includes both constructive criticisms, positive and negative, strengths and weaknesses, however you want to phrase it. They don't mind being told when it's in the relationship that we've developed with them as a mentor-mentee pair. So it is always a balancing act, but you don't have to, I don't feel that people here are really worried about being on the discouraging side of mentoring, or you wouldn't have joined this program. Michelle, ready for the next slide.
All right. Excellent. So let's define a little bit more. What is the role of the mentee? We talked about mentor, but what about mentee? So simply put, you get out of it what you put in, right? And so as a mentee, if let's say you're part of a 3-month program or a 1-month program here at U of R, it's an excellent program, lots of worksheets that help you do what you see on this slide. Carve out short-term goals, some timelines, and checklists and pamphlets. But as a mentee, if we don't do our homework, we don't, show up to our sessions prepared, you're not really going to get much benefit, right, as a mentee. So top down as a mentor, these are the things that you want to establish at the beginning, right? Talk to your mentee about, hey, what technology we're going to use, when we're going to meet, what's best for both of us. And then we want to, as mentees, we want to be women and men of our words, right? If we say 1 o'clock, we are professional, we do 1 o'clock or reschedule. Identifying communication preferences, text, Zoom, phone, all this is at the beginning. Establish those requirements and recommendations at the beginning as a mentor with your mentee. That'll make it much better in the end. And then that last bullet point there, it says, learn from the whole person. There's multiple levels of mentorship, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Some is very informal, some there are deliverables, like for our 3-month program here at U of R, some deliverables we should track. And some are very informal, where you might have a lifelong relationship with your mentee and mentor. So you want to kind of discuss that in the first couple of sessions as a mentor with your mentee, and understand that the mentee will really benefit the most if they follow the recommendations.
So now we're going to take a few minutes to do a breakout session to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to a couple of other people that are on this are in this program with you. And we're going to share a highlight or a challenge in any mentorship relationship that you've been in. So whether it's the one you've been in now, or if you want to talk about being a mentee, we're going to assign you randomly to groups. And we'll give you the prompts to come back to the group in about 6 minutes. So take a couple minutes each and just share an experience. So I was thinking maybe we could have a couple of people just share out a couple of points that maybe came up in their breakout session. Would somebody be willing to share something that happened in their room? You can just either just unmute yourself and just give a couple of words. Is anybody willing to share? I recognize so many of your names from communicating with you the mentorship program, so I hope somebody will share.
Well, I'll go, Michelle, because
Thanks, Jason.
actually I brought up the student that you and I had discussed about a month ago, and it has not actually progressed really. And we were just discussing, like, how do we potentially make it a learning experience for her that, what did she expect to get out of this, and why didn't it work, and why didn't she engage, and how do we, how do we formally end it, and or say, hey, how can I help you learn from the fact that you kind of didn't show up for this?
Right. Well, we are going to be talking about communication next, and that is something that I have heard from a number of mentors. We will be going over a little bit of that, and hopefully in the Q&A we can hear some more personal experiences about the challenges. So thank you for sharing. I know it can be frustrating, so hopefully we'll get some good tips. Is there anybody else that would like to share?
Michelle, Ed Miller.
Hi, Ed.
Hi. My breakout room didn't work. One other person's profile came up, and she was muted, and so there was no dialogue. I attempted to get her to unmute.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so just be aware there may be some missing links.
Okay, thank you.
Actually,
Anybody else?
we had a similar kind of glitch. I thought there were only 2 of us in the room, but there was actually a third person. So he came in pretty late, and it was a pretty rushed time to kind of, do the hellos and the introductions, and then to get into it.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that we all identified, although too quickly, is that we've got a bunch of very talented kids at this university. That is the one piece of which, not that we didn't know that, but it was lovely to hear, and I found that to be the case to the nines. I have two mentees. They are radically different in many ways, except for the fact that they are both extremely bright and motivated and just psyched about the areas that they're in. And it is a pleasure to talk with both of them.
Well, thank you, Barnett. It's great to hear. I have to say that I've been reading the halfway surveys for the people that have been in this program. And I am delighted to hear both the positive remarks by mentors, but also what mentees have been saying about all of you. And I have to say that they are just as pleased and impressed as you are with them. So we're going to continue on in the slide presentation, and we'll have more time at the end to share some experiences and to ask questions. So thank you for your comments, everyone. All right, John.
Excellent. So we'll hop right into it. So Michelle, you mentioned a couple of problems that you may, as a mentor, may be facing. What if your mentee does not reach out to you? What about COVID scenarios where you have to meet virtually or on the phone, or you can't meet in person to get that connection? What about just being patient and your mentee have an open mind on listening to you, and we may not even be in the same career field? So we'll put together this slide to kind of pique the mentee's interest, right? As you know, we have a lot of smart students alum from U of R. This slide communicates a couple of different approaches that are a little bit out of the box thinking, but kind of helps, right? So we'll hop into it. So get it in writing, whether it's visions, missions, goals. What does the mentee want from the program? If we can get that in writing from the beginning, however that looks, on a dry erase board, in an app, on a visual that you see here, these are examples. So they're not real, but they're examples. If you get it in writing from the beginning and get to that point, then the mentee can have some kind of ownership on, okay, this is what we came up with together. Let's see how we keep on target with this. So leading the effort with visuals, establishing some type of follow-up on these visuals, whether it's eventually the mentee will be doing this annually on their own or bi-monthly or whatever. But during your 3-month program, establishing, hey, let's follow up on our goal plan. Let's follow up on your mission. Let's follow up on the U of R has a pamphlet for short-term goals, midterm goals, and long-term goals. And so having them be accountable for following up and reviewing these visuals to kind of help maximize that input from them as well. And it's got to be fun less, right? And if you're having a good time, they may have a good time. They're having a good time, you have a good time. So try to strike that good balance between the methodical approach of having these visuals, as well as getting that buy-in from them, say, hey, I like this visual and I can buy in on this. All right.
I'm unmuting myself so you can actually hear me this time.
There
We're
you go.
now on to our second anonymous poll. This question is going to be how you communicate with your mentee most often. So you get to choose one of all of these: email, phone, FaceTime, Zoom, the platform for Melior Collective, another platform, or in person, which maybe we have some who've done that. So these results should be interesting. And hopefully we'll be having the results coming up soon. Yeah, Zoom wins at 43%, but a lot of you are still using the platform and email. Other social media and phone are the least used, and no one's met in person. I'm not surprised, but I thought maybe there were some intrepid people in Rochester able to be outside in the cold weather. All right, I'm turning this now over to Sean. Sorry.
That's me.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Sue. So a myriad of communication options. So this is creative. Some of you are mentors in different aspects. So I'm a big brother. I'm a mentor through my school, through U of R. I'm a career coach. And so there's different avenues of communicating with your mentees. And it's great to find the best option that works for you and the mentee. I was surprised. I thought I'd be meeting via Zoom with my mentee for U of R, and she actually preferred to just do the traditional phone call. And so that's what we did. But so looking at this slide here, very, very different, right? So this is a screenshot in the bottom left here of one of my mentees. We communicate through text message every month. I talk to him maybe once a year on the phone, but text messaging works for him as far as just a mentorship relationship. The top one on the left is a goal plan that my mentee shared with him. It's for 2021 through Facebook IM. And then on the right is my TikTok page, because a lot of the millennials these days are into social media and they just want to look at videos. And so this video was about how one of my mentees tweaked her resume and got the job that she wanted. And my mentee watches all my videos and likes all my videos, but we only talk on the phone like once or twice a year. So encourage yourself, especially for some of your more advanced mentors. We encourage you to take advantage of technology, what technology has to offer. Have fun with Facebook IM, text messages, social media, Zoom, phone, and more. Obviously, things are confidential, so keep that in mind. But if you're just communicating with your mentee and want to establish a level of communication that's comfortable for them, you may want to use something that's a little bit more suited for them to get them in that comfort zone. So these are just a couple of different options that are creative out of the box that we can encourage you to explore.
Thanks, Sean. So the social worker and the equity warrior in me wanted to just share some kind of ways to kind of think about how to be a little bit more inclusive and equitable. You know, everyone has the best intentions. However, we kind of have to acknowledge that we navigate life with different privileges and different experiences. So it's just good to kind of know how you can just be self-aware of how you can just better support someone who might have different experiences from you and kind of advocate on their behalf as well. So here's some just kind of tips and things to think about how you can just be a more equitable mentor. So the first one for me is kind of listening to understand. You know, many of us are ready to jump in and provide some ideas, but maybe do some listening to kind of understand if it's I kind of understand the situation to see like what the truly reason is. Sometimes it might be a challenge, or sometimes it might be a systemic barrier. So kind of think about how you can listen and kind of understand what works for you. The second one is check yourself. Kind of ask your question if you're going to suggest something. Is this easier for me because I have some type of privilege? Is it, you know, would the mentee kind of have a barrier doing that as well? And think about seeing if that comes into play as well. You know, for example, one of my mentees asked me how I handle the situation, and you know, she's a young Latina woman, and it's different for her to navigate the world than it is different for me too. So kind of acknowledging what I look like might be kind of a different type of approach, and kind of making sure building on that. And challenge the status quo. I know some of the ways we think about professionalism and what is professional sometimes isn't the most equitable. So like there's not the only one right way to do everything. So think about how a mentee could have a different type of experience based on their culture and their identity as well. I always like to recommend do your own research. So if you're working with someone with some challenges, you know, don't always put the pressure on them to educate you about the community. Like it's a lot for them sometimes. So think about ways you can do some research to be a better advocate if they're part of the LGBTQ community, or if they have a certain disability and they need some extra support as well. So think about some ways to do that as well. Being an ally, so how you can step up and advocate for them and take some action and kind of support them through things as well, and kind of be supportive of that. I always like to think of empower, don't save, you know, like provide them the tools, provide them the resources, give them the sense of confidence and accomplishment they have to feel like they can accomplish things rather than coming in and saying, oh, I can solve this for you and I can do that too as well. However, I want to figure out ways that you can advocate for them as well. So for example, if they're thinking about applying to a job at this company, maybe you can advocate and kind of ask the company if they have some inclusive policies, if they're set up for some ways to kind of think about, to making an inclusive space for the mentee. Might be a great way to have you advocate on their behalf so they don't have to kind of worry about another barrier that might come from it as well. So there's a lot to think about here, and it's ever growing, but just some kind of tools to think about how you can kind of challenge some power dynamics that come in for different mentees.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan. That's a really helpful reminder, and I really enjoyed hearing you talk about it personally. I want to talk about closing the mentoring relationship. This is the question I get most often from other mentors. And so I was glad when I got the mentoring guide from U of R to see that there was actually a part of the process was how you close it. It has great questions. You see the screenshot of that there. I also had worked on a process, and you see a part of a sample script for this. The important thing is, if you can from the start, plan for it at the first meeting and make sure that any scheduling includes an extra 15 minutes in whatever the last meeting is supposed to be. But also remind them that the meeting before you're closing, like in the 3-month program, you kind of know when you're going to be ending, since we're 46 days in. Also remind them next time we're going to be meeting 45 minutes instead of a half an hour or whatever it is, and give them a little high point. We'll discuss progress and your feedback. I put the sub bullets here under the final meeting because it's a chance for me to remind us of what Sean mentioned at the beginning. Get the goals in writing and use those goals to discuss. Do you remember 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, however long the program is, this is what you first said you wanted to focus on, and then we talked about it, and this is what you said, and then you can get their feedback. Again, a self-reflective practice, but they see the progress that they have made, explain it to you, and then you can give some overall feedback. Mentors always have the option to stay in touch, and occasionally mentees ask me before I might say anything. And that can be done formally or informally. Sean's explained he clearly has everybody in his network, keeps him up to date on everything at some point during each year, it seems, Sean. But for you to stay in touch is totally fine, up to you, even if the program itself is closing. You can I'm sure Michelle and Kayla would like to know that. Some programs try to track that as well. Mentees, I make an offer to people to reach back to me. Very few people do specifically, but I'm always surprised a couple of years goes by and someone gets in touch for a question. So there's no right or wrong way to close, but if you plan for it, you will be able to do a feedback loop. And I think that's very valuable for you and the mentor and the mentee. And it's also valuable for the program. Now I'm going to turn this over to Michelle for getting to the exciting part, Q&A.
Yep. So here I am again talking about challenges. And I just wanted to mention that I have heard from a number of you some of the challenges that you are facing with mentees. I've also heard from the mentees and also from our campus partners who have let us know a little bit about what the students are experiencing during the pandemic and all of these challenges that were kind of unforeseen. So a lot of people did sign up for this program thinking, had very good intentions. And in some cases, were just not able to follow through with the commitment, whether it was personal loss, whether it was academic stress. There are just a lot of factors in there. So I know that some of you were disappointed, that it took a while for the mentee to reach out, or that in some cases they still haven't reached out. And we really have tried to remind the mentees, that you are waiting as mentors, as far as the Meliora Collective program. But here, we have also written down mentee readiness, as some of you have noticed. And I think it was Jason who might have said, were they really ready to take on this kind of commitment? I know also some people have been talking about whether they're, able to help this person. So I just wanted to throw some of those out there, but we're ready for Q&A. So I'm going to stop share so that we can see everybody. And then we can kind of move on to the Q&A. So if you have a question, just send it to me in my chat box, my private chat box, Michelle Cavalcani, or you can just raise your hand and we can call on you. We can be fairly informal about this. The important thing is that we hear from you. So who would like to start us off? No brave souls.
I have a question.
Hi, Sue.
Sue Roca. So I'm in the Bay Area, and it sounds like this is really more suited if you're in Rochester area. Is that correct?
No, well, actually, we have participants from all over the world. In fact, there were a fair amount of students that were international students. So we have some mentors that are living internationally. We also have people on the West Coast. One thing we did learn was, time zones matter. So that's something that we really did try to take into consideration when we were matching people. But in some cases, we were hoping that, 3 hours or 5 hours, could still work, given people's schedules, that they would find time to connect. So because we are in the virtual space, we can actually match people globally all over the world. And so we have quite a few people out in California who are participating. Sean's in California.
Well, he's in Seattle. We were together, but I'm just saying, and I like doing all this virtually, but going forward, even when people are back, that will still be, that's still workable to do.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And actually, if it ends up being an in-person, once we can start seeing people, it might be nice to be able to match people more by location, but right now it's not one of the things that we're looking at when we are creating the matches, unless somebody specifically requests it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question for the panel is what kind of frequency do you meet your mentees, and just in general for people in the Meliora Collective, what kind of range of frequencies are you seeing meetings between mentors and mentees?
I have one mentee where we meet every week, and then another mentee where it's a little bit more random than that. It's just that, and I've left it up to them depending upon what their goals and objectives are. For one, the weekly works well, and for the other, once every 2.5 or 3 weeks works well.
Looks like we have Kabir who's saying that he meets monthly. What about other people? Bruce, you also meet monthly?
I'm meeting every 2 weeks with my University of Rochester mentee, but I have 3 other people that I'm mentoring, and I meet with them on varying schedules. Some I do it weekly. So it really depends upon your schedule and their schedule and where you are in the process with them.
I'm meeting my U of R student once a week, unless there's a conflict. And the Mass Bay Community College one I've met with once in 2 semesters. So it really is matching the expectations is kind of challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's once a week. It's pretty impressive, actually. What about the people that are having a harder time connecting with their mentee? Would anybody like to talk about that and kind of
I have not made contact with, or my mentee and I have not made contact yet. Michelle, I think we've talked or emailed that. And I try, my recollection is I try to reach out to her by email. I think you did you did something as well. Is if after initial efforts, nothing has happened, is there something more we can do?
Do any of the presenters want to suggest any possibilities for reaching out in another way, or?
That's a good, I had similar problems. So actually I have two mentees, and one of my mentees, I didn't hear through half of the program. And I just was randomly thinking of them, and I sent, based on their profile, I sent them a resource and idea and said, hey, like, I know I haven't heard from you, but here's, I know you're interested in this, like, here's an article, that I saw that might be helpful for you, like just that. And they actually apologized and was like, I'm really overwhelmed right now with school and everything, so I wasn't really thinking about stuff. So that could be a good way. I know you're trying to be helpful and supportive, so it could be just saying, hey, it looks like you're interested in this. Like, I'm thinking of you. I'm sharing some ideas, I'm just trying to be helpful. And probably no, it's not you. It's not that they don't want to meet with you. It could be a lot of other life situations happening. So, but, as Sean mentioned before, it's you put in what they have to put in some to get out some. So, so it kind of is in their hand, but you're empowering them with the tools and information and the comfort, so they feel like they can come to you. So, so I'm sorry that happened to you. I feel the same thing, and I hope that maybe they'll connect with you eventually. So
I'll just throw in there that, talking with my campus partners at the Green Center, we also look for this 3-month period of time where we think it's going to work best for students. We do have alumni who are also participating as mentees in the program, but the majority are students and graduate students. And, we sort of came to the conclusion there is no perfect time to have a mentorship program, because we're always running up against, the end of a semester, the beginning of a semester, holidays. And when you're doing a program like this, it's we have to make a decision at some point that we're gonna do our best to make it work with the majority of the people. When you're doing a mentorship program at work, or if it's a mentee that's choosing a mentor in a sort of a more fluid program where there's not a start and stop, then obviously they can choose the time that works best for them. And hopefully it works best for the mentor. So we do have some restrictions that we look at when we're trying to plan this out, but hopefully it's not too late. There's still a little time left. So if even if you get a couple of meetings out of it and decide that you want to continue past the formal program, you can do that. What I have heard is some people have mentorships going on the platform outside of the mentorship program. That's happened. I don't know if anybody here has had that. Karina, you're nodding your head. Has that happened to you?
No, it was just making sense though, because I was thinking about some of because I'm a mentor for one of the students currently, but as a somewhat recent alum of U of R, I was also looking on the platform for mentors. So that's
okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I do a little bit of a version of what Jonathan had suggested. If there's a moment or a time where I think that I could excite them or beg their inquiry, I send them, I have some videos and some YouTubes and things like that have messages, and I kind of offer it to them because they're short, they're fun, and I ask them things like, so what do you think the message is here, and what's the relevance to what you're trying to do or what you're working on right now? And it works every time. They can't ignore it. I put it in such a way that they, it would be civilized to respond.
Well, I think one thing that was helpful with the student I'm working with is we came up with a 5-year plan to do the things like the resume, the cover letter, the interning, just networking and getting involved, because I think it can be, even though I'm meeting once a week, it can be overwhelming for people because there's so much they want to learn, and it looks like it's such a compressed period. And being able to get people to lay things out over a more manageable time frame can be really helpful for keeping that engagement.
Do you think that the program is not long enough? I mean, how do you all feel about the timing of the program? The 3 months.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
Ask me in a month and a half.
I know that I also wanted to say that there's that there have been some problems with the program that we have in the beginning with the links. And so we've resolved some of those. I know some people had communication issues using the platform. So these are all things that we're working through, as this was the first one that we've been doing. So I just wanted to mention that hopefully those things have been worked out. And how many people, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I had a comment about the length question. I think it depends on the goals of the mentee. So my mentee is a first-year graduate student and just embarking upon her thesis program. Not anywhere near a career, so she doesn't need career counseling per se, and she's got a long road ahead of her in terms of even her thesis project. So right at the beginning of our conversations, we made a commitment that assuming we gelled, we would continue talking as long as possible. So we weren't bound, we didn't bind ourselves to the 3-month period. But I do think it's good to have a finite period to maybe let you off the hook if it's not working, or just for people with different goals.
Anybody else? What other questions do you have out there? Any challenges that you want to talk about, or any positives, any success stories so far?
One question would be, is there any advice on how to help people in this environment start with networking?
All right, well, let's go with our panel on that.
Yeah, maybe Sue, you take it first. I have a quick comment after you as well.
I think that luckily, there's a lot more information than a year ago or even last summer in terms of COVID and networking, and people are a lot more open to it. The advice I have for everybody, and actually do sessions on this quite frequently with mentees, is always make the ask small. The nice thing about what's happened in the pandemic, I hate to be the silver linings person, but I'm going to, video has become a reality for everybody. And so it's easier to reach out and jump on a Zoom call for 10 minutes. No one minds that ask anymore, as opposed to, can you meet me for coffee? I don't have time for coffee. I don't leave my office all day, that kind of thing. But I think they need guidance. I think mentees appreciate guidance from how do you write an ask request? How do you phrase it? How do you follow up? Because it's kind of like an interview. How do you follow up if they don't get back to you? When do you do it? So I'm going to stop there because there's a lot of advice out there on networking, and I'm happy to answer stuff separately. Sean, I know you'll have a lot of ideas.
Yeah, I'll be short because we're short on time, but yeah, ditto, Sue. I mean, I don't drink coffee, so I used to get those invites all the time to go to coffee. It's very easy to hop on Zoom. But there's Zoom burnout as well. So there's a lot more social events that are coming now, that they have trivia, they have polls, they have the webinar present format. They have different formats where if a student hops into those styles of meetings, it's a little bit more engaging than just one Zoom and a gallery of folks that you're looking at, and you have to fight to try to participate. So try to find those entertaining, and especially some of the mentees here, our mentors here, have mentees who are mid-career, right? So there's some more things that if you're 21 or above, they've got these social elements to Zoom meetings that you can do nowadays that's appropriate for adults versus if you're a student, there's things that are more appropriate for students and more entertaining for students. May not be as entertaining for us, but it's entertaining and engaging for students. So look at those other opportunities for virtual engagement too. Different apps that some of the other mentors put in the chat, like Marco Polo, the app as well.
Jonathan, oh, am I muted? Jonathan, do you have anything else to add?
I was just going to reiterate to kind of think about what Sean had mentioned before, like being creative with technology. So, you know, Sean is doing stuff on TikTok and other elements, you know, those might be a better type of way to engage someone than Zoom. So think about what the intended audiences of the person is. And excuse my cat, he's hopping on the Zoom call right now. So, you know, I am more likely to respond to a LinkedIn message than I am a email sometimes. So like that can help, you know, think about Twitter is a great way to reach people. For those on Clubhouse, you know, that could be a cool new way to do that. If you don't know what Clubhouse is, it's a new app. I'm on it. I don't use it, but people are on there and people are, so there might be other ways that might be easier kind of set up to kind of make those connections than, you know, a traditional kind of email, phone call type way. So
one of the things I noticed through this process is that a lot of students and graduate students, PhDs, they all are looking for this, you know, linear, like this line directly to their mentor, like their mentor has to be exactly what they're looking for and what they're studying. And so what I would say is also when you're talking to them to also talk about the importance of networking across industry. We don't know who we're going to meet and who, you know, that person is going to introduce us to. It's not necessarily always about, you know, your qualifications as a mentor, but you know plenty of people. And so I think that some mentees don't realize that. And that's something that you as mentors can also share, you know, that just because you're not I can't even think of an example, an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you don't know entrepreneurs, you know? So I want to be able to educate mentees, especially the student mentees, a little bit more on that and how they might really, I'm learning more about their reactions to their mentors now, saying like, we didn't, you know, it didn't look like we were a good match, but in fact, in the end, you know, we have been, and I've learned something new from them. So that's what I'm hoping people will realize. We are at the 7 o'clock point. I just wanted to mention that if anybody is interested in doing these kinds of shares or, you know, want more resources to have support in being a mentor, that I'll follow up in a thank you email along with the video. And I'll share also Sue, Jonathan, and Sean's contact information. They're also alumni career coaches. So they're on our alumni career coaches page, and I will also share that link. And I want to thank Sue, Jonathan, and Sean for your presentation today. And thank you all for coming and sharing your experiences with us. Really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you next time, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.